Olaf has been dominating the meta after the micro patch last week, and in this video, I'll show you how to master the Olaf comp by going over the build, what items and augments to make, how to play before level 7, during level 7, and after level 7, then I'll go into some in-depth positioning examples. This is a slow roll comp, meaning we're rolling up to 50 gold every single turn for 3-star Olaf, Diana, Braum, Shen, and Lilia. With this comp, we want to slow roll at level 7, and here are the core units for the comp. We run all the Scalescorns and Shen. Braum and Lilia are great tanks, so we want to keep them in as we get enough damage with Olaf. Diana is fantastic to threaten the backline, and Shen is great as he gives us both warrior and bruiser, while also being a great tank for our team. The two units we add in at level 7 are Qiyana and Ornn. Qiyana is in there to activate 2 Assassin, and Ornn is in there to activate 2 Tempest, and as he's also a bruiser. There is not anything amazing to add in at level 7 in this comp, unless you have some augments that let you go for 4 warriors or drop Scalescorns. I will go more in depth on how exactly we can change our board based on our augments, and also some other variations later in the video. Olaf is our main carry, so we prioritize making items for him first. He has one core item, which is a healing item. This is BT, Hodge, or Gunblade. BT is preferred as you get a big shield once you drop below 40% HP. Hodge gives us damage and healing, but it's either too little or too inconsistent. Gunblade is great to heal up the rest of our team, but this doesn't really matter as we just need Olaf alive to be able to win rounds. The second item wants to be a defensive item, which is either RFC or QSS. RFC is great as it's easier to make Olaf die before our tanks, and he also gets a ton of attack speed from the item. QSS is great to not get CC'd and also gives us a little extra attack speed. Most of the time you will build QSS, and it's overall a more slammable item than RFC, and it's also easier to make as you use 2 different components. The third item wants to be a damage item. This can be Rageblade, Giant Slayer, Deathblade, or Hurricane. Rageblade makes you attack faster with every auto, but this item is only good if you took QSS as your second item, as then you're guaranteed to keep stacking Rageblade for the first 15 seconds of the fight. Giant Slayer is great in lobbies with high HP targets, and this will allow Olaf to run through tanks that have high HP. Deathblade is just overall great. It synergizes well with the warrior trait and also synergizes well with his spell. Hurricane is great as it allows you to deal damage to multiple targets. This is especially strong if you get stuck on a tank, as then that second bolt will just wipe the enemy backline. Once you've made Olaf items, if you are in a spot to 3-star Diana, you want to make Diana items. She wants IE to make her spell always crit, then a healing item which is BT, Gunblade, or Hodge, and lastly, a damage item. The best one is Titan since she benefits greatly from both AP, AD, and tankiness, but Deathcap, Archangels, and Giant Slayer also works. Throw your tank items on Braum. These are any items like Warmogs, Stoneplate, Redemption, Sunfire, Bramble, and Dragon's Claw. If you get a spatula, you have 2 options. The first one is to make an Assassin Spat. This is only good to put on Olaf and use it as his damage item. And you want to drop Ornn to play 4 Assassins at level 7 in that case. The second option is to make Mage Spat. In this case, you play Silas over Ornn and throw your Mage Emblem on Shen or Ornn for more tankiness. The best augments to take are Ascension, Big Friend, Bruiser Heart or Crest, Guardian Heart or Emblem, Scalescorn Heart or Emblem, Second Wind, Triforce, Warrior Heart or Emblem, Weak Spot, Ancient Archives, Assassin Crest only, Better Together, Last Stand, Nomads, Personal Training, Tiamat, Trade Sector, or Verdant Veil. I mentioned a lot of augments there, and the best one out of those are Scalescorn Emblem, Triforce, Warrior Emblem, Last Stand, Personal Training, and Tiamat. The carousel priority for this comp is Bow, Sword, Cloak, then Glove. After that, you want to look for your early game opener. The best early game board with this comp is to have an early Olaf so you can solo frontline him and start stacking up his passive right away, but since he is a 3 cost, we will not get him in the early game all the time. Warrior Bruiser with Aatrox will be the best opener that you can almost force every game with Olaf, although other comps with Bruiser frontline like Cannoneers or Swift Shots can also do the job well. An important thing to note about Olaf's spell is that he gets plus 5 AD permanently for the rest of the game every time he dies. Therefore, during the early and mid game, we want to make Olaf die every fight to get plus 5 AD permanently. This means that we need to solo frontline him and put all our other champs in the backline, or we can put him on the outskirt of our frontline so that he gets targeted first. If you get a second Olaf, make sure to play both Olafs and have them both die so that you can get plus 10 AD permanently every fight, because once you combine the 2 Olafs into a 2-star, then you add both of their stacks together. Because of how Olaf's passive work, I like to lost streak a lot in the early game. Therefore, I tend to not slam any items unless it's an item for Olaf or Diana. And if you want to learn more about how to play the early game, check out my guide where I go in depth on that subject. After you've beaten Krugs, the general guidelines to play Olaf are to have one component for BT and one component for QSS. You also prefer to have an Olaf already, so you can start inting to stack him up. During the mid game, you will start taking a bit more damage if you lose, but you still want to keep inting with Olaf. What you can do is instead protect him a little more by adding another unit closer to the right side of the end, to not make Olaf take all the aggro right at the start of the fight. Eventually, you will get low on HP, but we now have an insanely overstated Olaf, and he will run through enemy teams once we hit some upgrades. And we want to do that by leveling to 7 on either stage 3, 5, or 4, 1 depending on how much gold you have. And after that, you want to start rolling until you have hit Olaf 2-star, and then get back up to 50 gold so we can start slow rolling at level 7. Once you're level 7, we start slow rolling, meaning we're rolling down to 50 gold every single turn for 3-star units. Your 3-star priority is Olaf, Diana, Braum, Shen, then Lilia. Olaf is the only one that you need to get 3-star, but the others definitely help, especially Diana. If you are low in HP, don't be afraid to roll down at level 7 to 2-star everything on your board to stabilize. The last thing you want is to continue bleeding out throughout the entire game, so this can definitely be a nice play to save yourself if you inted a lot with Olaf during the early and mid game. Generally, you will slow roll for the entirety of stage 4. Once you get to stage 5, you have to start considering rolling for Olaf 3-star. Generally, once you get close to 20 HP, you need to all in, as we want to maintain 2 lives. And most of the time, you will have to roll to 0 for 3-stars at around stage 5-3 to 5-5, as people are just too strong on stage 5 and a 2-star 3-cost carry won't do that well. Once you hit your 3-star carry, you want to start pushing level 8 most of the time. The only time you keep slow rolling at level 7 is if you're really close to a lot of 2-star 3-costs like Braum and Shen, as they do give us some considerable power spikes. Once you decide to go level 8, you want to add in Silas most of the time for 4 bruisers. You have some other options though based on your augments. If you had +1 warrior, you want to add in Yasuo or another warrior for 4 warriors. If you got +1 Scalescorn, you can cut Lilia to play another guardian. You want to pick up Pyke and play him over Kiana once you hit him. Then besides that, there's not really that much we can do with this comp, as it just isn't that flexible. Once you hit level 8 and have added in what you need, you can go to level 9 to add in a legendary to round out your comp. And if you were hireling throughout the entire game and you're able to go level 9 with a lot of gold, there isn't really a super high cap version of this comp as we can't play any dragons while running Scalescorn, so just adding in another support legendary like Soraka or Bard will do well. If you get contested, your plan will change, but first you need to figure out how you're being contested. You can get contested by someone else trying to play the same comp, or you can get partially contested by somebody else playing 2-star Olaf or Diana in another comp. Getting partially contested is not ideal, but it's not really that bad, as there are still many Olafs and Dianas left in the pool. Make sure to pay attention to the other partial contesters, because if they start picking up more Olafs and Dianas they need for the 2-stars, then we are in trouble. Now we're getting full contested. What you do in that case is either to pivot into another comp, and when you're playing Olaf carry, it's pretty easy to pivot into Siphon or Saya in that case. The other option is to keep rolling for Olaf 3-star. Know that it is close to impossible for both players to hit a 3-cost 3-star, as there are only 18 in total of each 3-cost. If you do this, you need to roll down before the other player at all costs, since the game is over once the other player hits 3-star Olaf. Another thing to consider is that you can lean more into Diana carry if you 3-star her before Olaf, as she is still strong enough to be a carry. Olaf's spell is not affected by positioning, as it just makes him deal more damage to any target. However, the things you want to pay attention to is where you're positioning Braum and Diana. Braum's shield blocks a ton of damage, and if you make the enemy carry target Braum, they are not doing any damage. Diana as well has the power to end fights right away. If she lands on the enemy carry, they will be dead once she casts her spell. General positioning with this comp looks like this. We have Ord on the far right to get a good ultimate angle, Shen is next to him to block autos from the enemy carries, Olaf is next to Shen to be more towards the middle of our front line, Braum is in the very outskirt of our front line to make sure his juicy shield soaks up all the damage from the enemy backline. The assassins want to be positioned wherever they can jump on the enemy carry. Now let's move on to some in-depth positioning examples. Against the first guy, the big threat is Ezreal. Braum is positioned to tank Ezreal and Ashe. Lilia will hopefully run up fast enough to be targeted by Lee Sin, and to avoid Braum from getting kicked. Shen is there blocking the auto attacks that will bombard Braum, and also blocks all the auto attacks from Xiao Yu. Silas is mana reaving the 2 biggest tanks. Olaf is hammering down on Leona to stay safe. Ornn is positioned to ult the entire backline. Kiana and Diana are jumping to each side of the backline to not bump too much into each other. Against the second guy, the big threat is Corki. Braum is yet again facing the enemy carry to pull up his shield and soak up as much damage from them as possible. Shen is next to him to block auto attacks from hitting them. Olaf is safe from the cannonball AoE as it's only one hex and it will land on the Braum. Ornn is positioned to slow the entire clump of enemies on the left side. Diana and Qiyana are positioned to slowly start eating their way into the enemy backline. Against the third guy, the big threat is Ryze. The assassins are jumping the backline on both sides again to not bump into each other too much. Braum and Shen are tanking the Ryze bolts. Ornn is slowing the enemy team, and Olaf is safe on the left side. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below what video you want me to make next, and if you want to get better at TFT, join the Discord. We got over 7,000 other players there who are hungry to climb. And if you want to get coached by me, the information is over in the Discord server as well. So take care and see you in the next video.